everybody. Welcome back to the Deep Life. And today I'm so excited that Michele has joined us. You are a holistic business coach, and I can't wait to dive deep into everything holistic in a business atmosphere, because this is something we've never done on the podcast, and it's going to be truly amazing. So welcome, Michele, to the Deep Life.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, we've had the pleasure of kind of connecting a little bit over the past couple of weeks to getting to know you and how you work as a holistic business coach. But I'd love for you to share with our audience a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today.
Awesome. Yeah, happy to dive in. Last week or a few weeks ago, we had such a beautiful discussion already. You mentioned how you went through, a program on marketing and sales and business, and how then afterwards you had to unlearn everything that you learned. And so in a way, that's what I'm trying to help people with, is really aligning themselves with what is true, first and foremost, to their purpose. And then, choosing the strategies that are right for them, that feel good for them, without having too much FOMO that, you're not doing all the things that everybody's expecting you to do in order to grow your business. And so, I'm really hoping to elevate the conversation about what it means to have a conscious business, and the new earth, sales, and what that really means and entails. And it's a lot more about, embodying yourself, and then going out and knowing who you're really speaking to, who your soulmate clients are, and using different spiritual and energetic techniques to attract them as well. So my background is really bridging kind of strategy and science together with spirituality. And so I went on my own journey of working for a very long time in tech. For a period of time, I also worked in an organization that connected clean technology companies with investors. Okay. And so I really got to understand the ecosystem of what it takes to really drive a business, and the pitfalls that a lot of businesses go through, and the challenges that come up. And then later on, I dove into spirituality at a time when I was really not understanding what the purpose was of my life. It's kind of like a midlife crisis moment. And it's like, there's got to be more to this, or to what I'm currently doing. So I felt I was in a very lost period. And that's when, I started exploring, Kabbalah and astrology and Hermetic principles, and then later healing. And so that's when, I started opening myself up to understanding more and more about what it is to really create your life, and that you have the power to create your life, and not be a victim of the circumstances that you're in. And what you bring into your reality is really a factor of how much self-worth you have, and how much you think you're worthy of, a vision, right? So if you think you can only go from step A to B, like, for example, just getting a promotion in your company, and perhaps for some that's their path. But what if there's something more out there than just taking that little step from A to B? Maybe you can jump to a whole new business that suits you better, right? And so it's just expanding people's imagination. And I went through a lot of that process myself, of going to different organizations, and it was like different environment, but same place.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it was like deja vu all over again,
Yeah.
it's just like Groundhog's Day, even though it was a different, different industry and, different, of course, like situations, but, until I realized the dynamics that I was in and that I needed to shift those,
Mm.
I was still living out the same thing, maybe slightly better each time.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, once I started really doing, in particular, a modality called theta healing, where I looked into my subconscious patterns, then I started seeing big changes where, the people that were demeaning or putting me down, or situations where I wasn't getting promoted, things like that, those people just left. They like left the company altogether, right? And then suddenly, as I was valuing myself more, other people were praising me more. Other people were telling me how much they appreciated and valued, what I had to bring. And the work I was doing got easier for me because I was, clearing out any negative baggage that is in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And so when you can clear all the resentments and the regrets and the anger and all these lower vibrational feelings and emotions and thoughts, then what happens is it opens you up for more room for imagination, for creation, for wow, how can I make this faster, easier for myself? What else can I do? How can I make my life more magical in a way? So I started experimenting, at first, even within these organizations, and then as I was developing my own skills, I developed my own, intuitive abilities as well, and then I started on the side working with other people in a healing capacity. So I was just working one-to-one, and I didn't really know. I just worked with whomever. I was, I was just interested to share the knowledge that I had and the abilities that I had, but I didn't really have a niche in specific. So I was like, if you want to work with me on a disease, I can work with you on that. If you want to work with me on your love life, I can do that. And to some extent, I still do that. And that's kind of why I'm calling myself a holistic business coach. But I realized, the more people I ended up working with, I was sort of attracting a certain type of person who is sort of what you would call new earth leader. So somebody who is just really interested in not only becoming an entrepreneur, but really helping elevate people. And that could be in different ways. It could be in the sustainability realm, or it could be in the healing realm, or it could just be, elevating people from, creating beautiful spaces for people, right? Whichever way that is. And to some extent, the archetypes that I put together as part of the quiz that I have on my website, it became something that I kind of pulled out as these are the archetypes that the people that I was working with. So I crafted them around people that I knew and what they were meant to be doing in their life. And
fascinating.
And so,
That's really cool that you did that. I did not know. I was actually wondering about that. And we will well, I know we mentioned it before, but we'll make sure to link for people to sign up through your newsletter to do this little quiz if they want to. Cause I mean, like we said, Dan and I did it and it was great. So that's amazing that you did that yourself. Wow.
Yeah. And it's going to be something I'll be continuing to develop out as something that, for now I've developed some insights that you can kind of take away as far as how you can apply that to your life or your business, but going to an even deeper level of, what does it really mean to be, the healer, for example, archetype, and, within your business. So a healer is somebody who really needs to focus on their energy levels. And that should sort of be the primary focus, is like, creating that container of that vibration. Yeah. So it's almost like half of the time that you spend is just like nurturing yourself. And so you don't have time for a million discovery calls, right? So you're not going to get, for example, a appointment setter necessarily to book you like 24 appointments in a day, right? Because you're going to be burnt out, and maybe half of them or more are not going to be your true clients, right? So what are some other tactics that you can use where it's like the people that you either, you get them in a group setting, or you're talking to individuals that already your soulmate clients, you're not spending a lot of time going here or there with people that, it's clear are not really interested in what you have to bring. So it's those nuances that I really work with people on as a tool to help them decide, make decisions within their life and their business as to how they can conduct themselves. Because someone told me recently that almost 70%, I don't know where the statistic came from, so I'm going to research it, but almost 70% of entrepreneurs, especially more kind of on the spiritual entrepreneur side, have elements of like ADHD. And I really think that it's because, the world that we kind of live in, it's really easy to be pulled into so many different directions.
Yes.
And to have real focus is really a challenge. Because you're like, should I be doing this or that? Or like there's like 10 things that are important at the same time. And so you're dispersing your energy across different things. And then at the end of the day, wondering, what did I accomplish? And did this actually move the needle towards like,
you're totally describing me here. Yeah. And I don't know, I resonate with that so much. Dan's a little bit better at that. And I always thought that maybe it came from like my corporate background, because I worked so long in corporate offices where I was literally working 10 hours a day. And if my door was open and my boss walked by and I was just like, I don't know, hypothetically like shopping online as opposed to like doing something, it was like very looked down on. And like, if I wasn't able to take like a half an hour lunch break, it would be like 15 minutes. And that like, kind of like you were saying, like the Groundhog Day, just like day in and day out, like grind. And I feel like so many people are stuck in that. And I'm really trying to unlearn a lot of that trauma that's gone on in my head, because exactly what you're saying, it's like, I was so busy today, but what did I actually do?
Right.
And I think that our listeners are going to resonate with that, because I know that I'm not the only one here. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
No, that's a big part of our conditioning, is like, it's to be busy. And and
I used to say this to Dan when we first started the company. I mean, you would say it all the time. People almost project their busyness onto you. Like, oh, you must be really busy. What have you done all day?
Right.
And then I would be like, wait a minute, I've only done one thing. Should I like lie and say I've done 10 things? Because it's like, then they're going to think that I'm not doing anything. And it's that's me. Again, this is really talking about my experience. Then I'm like, oh my God, are they going to think I'm lazy?
Right.
And now it's like, F no, if I need a day where I'm just like reading a book to ground me back into like clearing out all of that mental noise that needs to almost dissipate so that I'm able to get those downloads and what I need creatively, I am all for it. But it's taken a long time to cultivate that in this society that we live in of instant gratification. Everything needs to happen. Do. You know, we're human beings, not human doings.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think what you touched upon just runs so deep because, you know, the fact that, as you were saying, it's not just your boss who's there, you know, checking what you're doing, but it's like everybody around you is having that expectation too. So it's like this, somehow we've created it all around us where, you know, people are projecting and judging and
then we judge ourselves.
And then of course you judge yourself as well. And the fact that you have thoughts about like, oh, what are they gonna think of me? You know, that just perpetuates the whole system ultimately and gets people to be these corporate robots at the end of the day. And that's kind of what, you know, probably some people want right. But yeah, and I think especially for women, we're meant to be more yin. So we're meant to be a little bit more of like we're the ones that we incubate, right? We take the idea and then we create something big out of it, but it has to be nourished and it has to be taken care of. And then it comes out, you know, as the thing is, it needs to be. And so we've just forgotten about these ancient principles. And it's making, I think, a lot of women in some ways too much into their masculine, and that creates disbalance in their life, but also in their relationships as well. Like the masculine feminine balance. And then, you know, getting into a place where I think a lot of women are just like, okay, well, now I can do everything. You know, it's like, I can do everything now. Like, don't tell me I can't do like also like work and this and that and take care of everything. Right. And so we've like forgotten how to get support, you know, from other people. I mean, it goes for everybody at the end of the day, but so it is a lot of unlearning, right? And being able to receive more from other people. It's like other people can step in to do things for us, right? And that's something I was experimenting with also. It's like, where can I, you know, have other people, other resources in my organization to do what I was put on my plate. As much as you know, I'm not a lazy person by any means, but it's like, how can I create more efficiency so that it's because my number one is my energy at the end of the day. And so I just noticed how things would be reassigned and shifted when I said, no, I'm not taking this. Like, let's see, you know, where else this can go, right? As opposed to, I'm going to be this worker bee and I'm going to take on 3 different responsibilities, even though it was never part of my job title or, you know, because that's what's expected to just move on into the company. And so, a lot of reversal in mindset. And so, and then you take that into your business life, if that's, you know, something you're interested in, if your viewers are interested in starting or are redesigning. So it's again, And I'm definitely guilty of this, but I left like a 9 to 5 to then start what was like a 7 to 12,
Yeah.
all day long at night, because it in a way it's like, this is my passion.
Yeah.
And there was so much, as visionaries too, it's like you sometimes in creative people can see like the totality of everything that needs to be done. And so it's like this impatience that comes in of like, I want it all now to like come together now, rather than, okay, like there's a step-by-step natural process of development and knowing when to stop and, leave it for the next day. And so there's a lot of retraining in that part as well. So.
There is. Yeah. And I love that you touched upon a little while ago about when you were going through kind of your own transition, you worked internally on yourself, right? That's what you were saying within the business. And then you saw people who were, mean or whatever. I'm paraphrasing here. They basically left the company or but it all started within you. And I think that that's really empowering that people, we can't reiterate it enough that I think very much right now, I'm learning lessons of like, I cannot change anyone to make myself either feel comfortable, to make my business grow, to make my relationships better. The only person that I can work on is myself.
Right.
And I do think that we're all put here, especially us where we're kind of entrepreneurs in the spiritual aspect, like to raise the consciousness of this new earth that's already begun. And I love that because Dan and I were talking prior to the taping, and we want to get into this kind of like new earth business model.
Yeah, you had mentioned before that you're like sort of the archetype that you're working with a lot is sort of like these new earth leaders.
Yeah.
And I think to kind of like clarifying that a little, like the word, there's clearly an evolution in consciousness happening right now. People are waking up really, really fast. It seems to me like the more aware you are of it, the more you see it, and it's happening exponentially. And at the same time, a lot of our I'll say systems are crumbling or at least being exposed for what they are. But we also have, at least in the West and probably globally, this notion that being successful in business, that making a lot of money runs counter to like this evolution in spiritual growth. And I think it's really important to kind of point out that you can do both. Just because you're having this awakening and you're seeing the world differently doesn't mean you need to go live on a commune or go meditate for the rest of your life in the mountains. You can also you can contribute to society, and you can run a conscious business, and you can make money doing things that also contribute to the greater good.
Absolutely.
And I'd love to hear you touch on that.
Yeah. No, I think that frankly, unless you've gotten to a place where you are fully abundant, you haven't actually reached your full embodiment, because I think that's actually a reflection of being your true self, because then everything is abundant around you. You're fully aligned. So that aspect is an important one that gets reflected out. And so, there's definitely a misconception, especially within certain professions, that, it's like, oh, I have to give up my cushy job to start this thing where I'm going to have a genuine pay cut. And maybe that is a phase that you kind of go through. But the point is that you have to really create the right business model and business design to allow for your blossoming, right? And so I think there's more and more people who are thinking about, how can I recreate this way of working with people, especially, in coaching kind of arena, where you're really giving people a more VIP experience, and you're giving more of the tools and information about yourself to them. And as a result, it's valued more, right? And so it's like, how can you create these really interesting offers? And, you know, and also co-create. I think the New Earth is about co-creation with other New Earth communities and people. And it's like that collaboration that's really going to get us to this new place, rather than the competition, which we're all trained to, right? But it's like, where are there synergies between people with common goals and, you know, communities that are appreciating and wanting the same kind of knowledge base. And so I think I'm really seeing that that's going to be a huge part of, if you want to call it marketing, but it's creating movements ultimately. That's what it's going to shift into.
Also more of a connection than marketing and selling.
Right, exactly. Like genuine, heartfelt connections. You know, it's not like spamming people with, you know, hey, do you want, you know, okay, maybe I think for some people it works. For me, I've tried it and I'm like, doesn't feel genuine to reach out with like trying to get something, I think, from someone. Is ultimately like the change in approach. It's just like, all right, how can I improve this person's life, even with one conversation, right? And then leave it open to where that could lead you in the end, without, you know, an attachment or expectations to like, they're going to become my client or, you know. And so I think it's like letting go of that expectation of like, this person. Sometimes I've encountered people where I'm like, they could be an amazing client. And so you're like, oh, they're such a good fit. And so you have this like built up expectation. But then the people that I end up working with, it's like a total surprise to me in the end. So it's letting go altogether of the expectation of how abundance is going to come to you and from whom, right? And so your job is just to give, and, you know, to give knowledge, to share whatever you can to however many people, to your, you know, if you have a great social media following, that's part of it, is like sharing what you know with a lot of people. And then, you know, sometimes your abundance it comes from different places that you may not even expect. So it's releasing that, again, attachment to like, oh, this person or that person, or I'm going to get like X number of leads from this type of activity. You know, it's really releasing control of those, like, even the word is like financial projections, you know, from certain things, right?
No, that's amazing. And I want to touch upon a little bit, because when we talked a few weeks ago, Dan and I were giving our own experience when we started, you know, Momentum and the business. And we were working with, you know, a mentor that was really focused on, you know, selling our coaching, like getting, you know, more clients, as many as we can. And we'd be, you know, direct messaging people, doing newsletters, you know, reaching out, lots of cold calling, which I had done throughout my corporate career. And I was like, okay, like, I'll just handle it. I'll do it all. Dan, you can focus on, you know, the training. But I was getting so burnt out, and it literally was making my stomach turn. I even like hired an assistant to do it. But again, like it plummeted. It did not yield the results that you'd think it would in this corporate setting, from a mentor that's saying, you know, you need to reach out and DM X amount of people to get X amount of responses, and then convert these people once even now it's making my head spin. And that, I think, is the trap, where kind of very similar to the health and fitness space where Dan and I, you know, have worked, is in that space, you try to fit everyone into this box, work out for X amount of hours, eat X amount of calories, you're going to lose weight or bulk up depending on what you want to do. And it goes hand in hand with the business. Like I was saying, reach out to X amount of people, get X amount of responses, then you'll convert X amount of people. But it's like, that was obviously not working for Dan and I. And so I want you to touch upon that kind of like, as we're unique individuals, our unique businesses have different needs, right? So it's not necessarily the amount of people that you're selling to, it's kind of what you're bringing in through that energetic alignment. And I just want you to touch upon that a little bit, because I feel like that's so important for people to understand, because it is intimidating. Like, oh my gosh, especially for people who are maybe a little bit introverted that don't like reaching out and speaking to people. So if you could kind of give an idea or a sense of like how that's really a holistic approach to it. It's encompassing everything into it as opposed to compartmentalizing everything.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you're describing how, you're creating a new kind of company, a new offering, right? And so it's like, why would the old ways of doing things fit into something that you're creating that's new?
Yes.
Think about it, logic, of course, in hindsight, it's 2020. But sometimes sometimes we need to go through that process just to double check and be like, all right, we tried this tactic and it doesn't work for us, right? I mean, that is part of being an entrepreneur, is like, let's just try different things and see and evaluate. You like look at the data, obviously. But of course, like look at the data early on, right? Don't drag it out for more than it needs to go, kill it like right away, even if you spent a lot of time and money already, and you're like, well, I already went down this road, so I'm just going to continue. Like that's clearly not a good way to go, right? It's going to be painful. But that's really what I try to do within my sessions with people, is really unpack why they're doing what they're doing. And evaluating each thing, like, is this the right thing for you to do now? Because maybe that is a tactic that you're going to do further down the line, and it will make sense later on. And like you said, maybe it's something that was clearly not meant for you, right? Because so looking at your body signs, if you're tired and you're just like, I can't do this anymore, and you're clearly burnt out, then it's just, your body is giving you the signs. So listen deeply to that, right? And then think about, okay, what is it telling me? What's the information here, right? Maybe I should take a break from this and try something else and see if that gives me a reward or something, different. So it's, first and foremost, of course, listening to ourselves. And, sometimes the reason that we do things, again, it has to do with our subconscious and our conditioning. And so it's really digging deeply into our psyche. Where do our traumas come from? Why are we doing things the way that we're doing them? And so it may be that, okay, the strategy is correct, but the approach has to change, for example. Like the way that you go about it is going to make the energetic shift. And so it's a lot of looking at that. And then I would say, for those that are uncomfortable speaking or whatever, that maybe they're more introverted. Yes, on the one hand, perhaps for them, you can do more like SEO, writing articles, doing things kind of more behind the scenes. But I would also challenge for some individuals that maybe they were told a story when they were little that, you know, they're quiet or they're shy or, you know, to shut up, or their voice wasn't really heard, or they didn't have a space to actually feel comfortable voicing themselves. And so it could actually be just, how can we transform that understanding of who we are, so that we can get more comfortable in places and spaces that actually really need to hear what we have to say.
Yeah, stepping into that.
So again, it's very individual. And I look at people's human design as well, to look at, you know, again, these are just clues. It's not I never like to look at spiritual tools as labels, and they're mostly just some information, and you can always shift out of them because we're powerful creators, right? We can be who we want to be at the end of the day. But you know, there are some subtle information of like, okay, maybe this is my tendency. My tendency is that the way that my power exists, or, you know, brings people to me, is just by visualizing it and thinking about it, right? And then surrendering to the universe to bring them to us. It doesn't mean, though, that we shouldn't act or we shouldn't take steps. So that, you know, there's some misconceptions, of course, about like, just surrender, you know. No, I wouldn't agree necessarily with that. I wouldn't agree with just work on your energy and then everything will be put into place. So I think it's really this beautiful dance of, where is spirit telling me where am I supposed to go today? Who am I supposed to reach out to? Like, ask the questions every day. What's my next step? Right. And so it is taking action, but it's aligned action. And then it's, allowing for, once I've decided what I want, it's allowing for it to come in different ways that we don't expect, you know. But again, and then for someone else, they may be designed in a way that, they are supposed to network and they're supposed to reach out and they're supposed to connect with a lot of people. That's part of who they are and how they manifest. So it's just those really nuances of knowing who you are in a deeper level and using that to your advantage, so that you're not like tired all the time and wondering what's happening, what's going on.
I think we all know people like that are so like very extroverted and like almost seems like they're getting energy from like a sales job where they're out talking to people and pitching things, and they love it. But I think a lot for us, I think a lot of it was almost like we were trying to sell from a place of fear and scarcity. And there was a desperation in our, I guess, like sales tactics that like you're not going to create something beautiful from a place of like fear and
and I must say that I've gotten on many, because I've looked for my own mentors and I've gotten on so many sales calls with other people, and I think it's a great reflection, because it's like how they make you feel, right? In the way that they're conducting the call is like good information for what not to do to someone else.
Absolutely.
Right. And and for some reason, we've got these people training other people to do the same thing. And then it's like, but you just made me feel so bad about myself through this call. So is that what you really want to come out of? Like, was that the outcome you want from this? Or do you want to help me like transform or elevate me? And so it's really like these nuances in how you conduct it. But I think at the end of the day, we overcomplicate the sales, and it's really when you attract the right person, you're just having a conversation, you're having, in some way they already are sold, and it's just, the final, like, here's the information.
Yeah.
It's just as easy as that.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Keeping it simplistic.
So,
Yeah, I know personally for me, like when I've gone, like I'm saying, like trying to like chase after sales, I find myself pushing them away. And then rather than focusing on the sales, just focus on coaching, which I love, and spending time and connecting with clients. Then I end up getting just random referrals out of nowhere. Like, oh, like my friend recommended you and whatever it is. And then you end up with like too much business. And it's been really interesting to.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share with you some ideas that came through just before I got on this call with you guys.
Okay.
And one thing that I saw is that you guys have had many lifetimes together, and many lifetimes working together, which is cool.
That's so interesting.
And in this lifetime, I think it's actually about you guys finding your own individuality in the work that you do. And it's not to say that you can't still work on projects together. So like, for example, I kind of saw you guys do a retreat where you guys can combine, your strengths together and really create this VIP experience for, for both of your clientele. So that's one area where I think you guys can really merge together, but it's actually more about you guys finding your own voice and your own capabilities and really individualizing that, as opposed to merging together, which I think is what you did in past lifetimes.
Yeah.
A lot of. And so it's really cool that you guys took the quiz. I hope it resonated. I saw those results. So it's the Your Brilliance quiz, and there's 12 archetypes that are part of this quiz. And so, you guys got healer and then nurturer, right?
I think I was the restorer.
Restorer, yes.
Yeah.
Restorer.
Along the same lines?
Yes.
Okay.
And so for Dan, I was seeing that it was more about moving into working with people to repair their bodies physically, but they also have probably gone through some traumas emotionally because of their physical abuse or whatever happened to them in their life. So it's like using like some fitness protocol as part of the treatment plan, but it's like your role is to create an evaluation, a very thorough evaluation of both sort of their emotional state and their physical state. And then, you're like a generalist doctor who's there to prescribe different things for them to do. And so your main part is in that evaluation process. That's where your genius lies. And you actually can hire other people or refer to other people to do the fitness aspect, or it's something, you can train them on that part of it so that they can take that aspect and then, divide up to someone else to do another part of it. But yeah, there was something about repair, and it's almost like I was seeing like sewing of a kind of almost like surgery of, let's say someone has, injured their knee or something like that. So it's how can you create different ways to support it. So that's kind of where the healer aspect comes in. And I was seeing you actually using your voice a lot more because you have so much knowledge to share.
I say that all the time.
So it's actually getting yourself on podcasts and other areas where people can extract the information from you through asking questions and things like that. And so for Elise, I got that it's interesting, you're kind of going to, I don't know if this resonates, but it's like herbology or herbs, something like mixing that in with energy healing together.
Oh, okay.
Kind of strongly. So maybe something to explore, because that's a natural, side to, naturopathy,
Right.
or complement rather to nutrition and naturopathy and things like that. So it's kind of that combination. And I kind of was seeing you going out to different in-person like fairs or in-person events, kind of to demonstrate, all the different products that you might have, or
Interesting.
yeah.
That's really interesting.
That's kind of what I saw as sort of the next evolution of what you guys would be doing.
I love that.
And it's just like where you got to now is what's necessary, all of your background for what would be kind of the next stage, or the the next version of you, right?
I love that. Yeah.
I feel like that resonates so much. Or it's like what we've been talking about, the directions we want to go in. And then also like kind of a good nudge in the right direction too, where it's like, what is that? What does that next phase look like?
Yeah. And I'll share something. So I think I love this, and I always love the energetics and the downloads that you specifically receive as, a channel, however they come to you, because it's so fascinating. And I feel like I mentioned this when we were having our intro podcast, kind of whenever that was, a couple weeks ago, that I kind of like, I feel like I'm in this like in between phase where I kind of jumped on the bandwagon of Dan's Momentum, Strength, and Wellness. Obviously we started the company together, but he was like the forerunner of it. And I was like, well, I love nutrition. Let me just kind of jump in on this. But now I feel myself being pulled in a different direction, not to separate completely, but almost having an umbrella company. And then where Dan handles like almost his healing and whatever that may be with his personal training. And then I go in my separate way to do whatever it may be, almost like on an energetic level. I've always been really intrigued with like energy and quantum healing. And that's really what I'm trying to tap into now. And it's kind of coming full circle. Like, how can we offer this to our clients once I get the, proper trainings of it? But what's really funny is that, have you ever heard of a woman named Roseanne Grace?
No, I haven't.
So do you know who Dolores Cannon is?
Yes.
Okay. So yes. So she actually worked under Dolores Cannon. She's basically, she's a quantum healer.
Oh, and, right. Yes.
Yeah. She was just like, Dolores was her mentor. And we had listened to her on a podcast maybe over a year ago. And she does past life regressions and inner child work and all these things. And I had done my first inner child session with her at the beginning of the year in February. And when I tell you, it was profound in and of itself, it was. And she did tell me that I had past lives here on earth. She didn't mention any of them pertaining to Dan. But I simply say that just because I know that I reincarnated on earth like many times. I actually just had a session with her maybe 2.5 or 3 weeks ago. And she put me into a mini hypnosis. And it was basically like, not future peaking, but going into like my highest timelines. And one of the timelines I saw was Dan and I conducting a retreat.
Oh, wow.
I swear on my life. I'm
well,
not,
there you go.
like,
so here's another message that it's true. Yeah.
Because we've talked about that too. And we're kind of thinking like, okay, in the retreat aspect, like where can we use our unique gifts to bring people together, to heal them in person and to do, you know, whatever it may be, like herbal supplements or that. So I think that that's really cool.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that and tapping into us.
Cool. Yeah. And I would just encourage you to, I think the way you were describing it is that you're still kind of an umbrella, but I would really just encourage you to just have your own
things.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm all for that. I think
your own title of what that is as well.
Okay. I love that.
And it's not to say that you can't refer people to each other, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, chances are people that are interested in one thing probably, you know, would appreciate the other as well. So
you're right. I love that. And I thank you for saying that. I often need the reminder too, because I feel like as we've been together so long, I feel almost an attachment that we need to do things together a lot of the time. So it is encouraging to hear that like, we'll be all right if we branch out in this aspect. And if anything, it would maybe even be more rewarding for the both of us in our own little ways.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh. Okay.
Helpful and maybe gives you like a little bit of an understanding of the way that I work with people. Just generally just providing some insights. And again, you know, I never want anyone to take that information and be like, you know, this is the only thing I should do, right? I really want to, I always also try to encourage people to sit with the information and, you know, what resonates, what doesn't, or what resonates right now. And maybe something else is just further down the line, which will reveal itself later. And so, I, you know, try to really empower people to, of course, like source the information as well from themselves and really, you know, sit with their heart and their body to be like, okay, what's true or not true, you know, with the information.
Absolutely.
Because I know myself, I've received, you know, different types of information from different people and I've had to sift it out, you know, so I understand how that is.
I swear to God, I feel like you hit it on the head, because when we moved in our transition from, you know, California to Massachusetts right now, and again, I don't think it's going to be our forever home. We're just in a holding pattern right now. As we were beginning to kind of transform our life and change, I was getting a lot of downloads too. And I'm sure it's different because we haven't had the same trainings, but I do get little, it's not voices that I hear, but it's like downloads that come through that are very strong, whether they be sayings or feelings. And I had this huge impulse of being like, Dan, I need to step back from momentum for a second. And I need to really like reevaluate, because I felt that there was almost like too much of a resistant control that I was placing on the business that wasn't allowing it to flow naturally. And once I started stepping back and I was like, Dan, you've just got to handle it. You've got to handle the clients that we had, and you've got to handle the kind of Instagram and our social media. It's almost like things began ramping up. It's like once I stepped away, it was letting more energy come in for like Dan to take the light and shine on his own. And it's been really great over the past couple months to see it. And it's encouraging because, like I said, you're kind of mirroring exactly what we needed to hear, but it's such a great push that I think we are going in the right direction. And I'm very much kind of taking it, you know, baby steps, one little thing at a time, and we'll meditate on it. And I'm so grateful for
it doesn't have to be like overnight, right? It could be like this gradual process, of course. And then, you know, Dan should, as you're stepping back, like he should get his own support, right? His own team and people that will help him with the things that you previously were working on with him. But I know, you know, we probably tend to be like, oh, well, this is good financially, right? Right. And so that can, you know, be a barrier in some ways to, you know, it's just like a little switch of mindset, like, okay, maybe I just need a social media assistant
Yeah.
and then, then I can focus on other aspects of like higher value or working on, the bigger offering that I'm going to put out. So,
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
yeah.
I have a question, if anything came through because as you were describing, like, it's almost like empowering to go like our own separate ways, and that's okay. But we do the podcasts together. Is there any downloads on that?
Oh, well, I didn't ask specifically about that,
Okay,
but
that's okay.
I think as long as you enjoy it,
Yeah.
why not? It's just more like the transition is more for I think for Dan, where
Yeah.
he's supposed to take more of the spotlight in terms, because I think when you interview other people, it's more about them.
Yes, it is. Yes,
And
you're right.
so it's maybe part of the podcast, for example, is just solo talking. I mean, getting comfortable with that, but maybe some of the episodes are you just sharing your own knowledge as part of it. And appearing on other people's audiences as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So much. I feel like I'm sweating already. Maybe I should have worn a t-shirt. This is yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like we could talk forever and ever. And I am just so thankful that the universe has brought us together, because it's so important to share these conversations. I think as Jan and I obviously are entrepreneurs, and we want people to hear that, there's a different way to do things, whether that be, energetically through yourself or through business. And I guess I'm just so grateful that you were able to come on the show, because I don't know about you personally, but Dan and I, the majority of people that we know, I mean, they're unhappy in their jobs. And I mean, I know I was for years. And I know that, Michelle, you said that you kind of went through a midlife crisis. I feel like I did the same, and I'm only 35. So my heart goes out to those people who really do have that midlife crisis in their older age. Not that that's a problem, because, I do know that, everything happens in divine timing, but I think that the message that you bring that is so important for people is that we are creating our own realities. We're creators in this. And that's so empowering, because I was stuck very much in that victim mentality of, oh my gosh, the only way that I can make money is a 9-to-5 job if I'm grinding.
Right.
But I was burnt out. And like you were saying before, your body is highly intelligent. It's very intuitive. And so when I would get home at 7 p.m., 6 or 7 p.m., then be in bed an hour later because I had no energy to devote to anything else.
Right.
I think I just intuitively know, like, I cannot do this forever. Like I am someone who I do think I'm an empath, for sure. And I just know that the draining was going to put me into, I can't even imagine what in the years down, but having the flip side of that empowering just notion of we're able to change it, no matter what age we're at. I think that that is something that's so wonderful, and that you have pioneered this, kind of master of evolution, like where we're going into this new earth. Like I'm so grateful for that. And thank you for sharing like the wealth of knowledge that you have. I really want to like maybe do this in another like 6 months or a year to see, where we are and where you are, because time is such an illusion in and of itself. But the patience that, we're going to take into the next trajectory of the years to come is so fascinating. But if people want to, dive deeper into this aspect of holistic business coaching with you, where can people find you? What's the best resources that, we can share with our audience?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm super excited for you guys and your next phase. I definitely do want to keep in touch and see where it all goes. But yeah, if people want to find me, it's micheleparad.com. So Michele with one L, Michele, Parad, Parad. And that's where you can find the quiz and some
Great.
other great resources. I have a strategy workbook for people who are just trying to think through, their branding and just generally, how to create their mission statement. And so, yeah, feel free to reach out to me through there, or I'm on Instagram as well, Michele.Parad. So yeah, it would be great to hear from you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michele.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you. This was fun.